The emergency beacon cut through the dark void of space like a scream in the night. Its signal reached across star systems, carrying a message that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about the quiet species from Sol 3. Commander Zixtal of the Vraxian Defense Fleet received the distress call while conducting routine patrol duties near the Outer Rim territories. The crystalline being's 4 eyes widened as the universal translator decoded the desperate message. "This is Captain Velandra of the research vessel Cosmic Dawn. We are under attack by Korthak raiders. Our shields are failing. We have civilians aboard, including younglings. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need immediate assistance. Our coordinates are..." The transmission cut to static. Zixtal's mandibles clicked with frustration. The coordinates placed the attack deep in neutral space, far from any major fleet positions. The Vraxians were the closest, but even at maximum speed, it would take 6 standard hours to reach the location. By then, the research vessel would be nothing but debris. "Communications officer, broadcast this distress call on all emergency frequencies," Zixtal ordered. "Perhaps someone closer can respond." What Zixtal didn't know was that the signal had already reached ears that no one expected to be listening. Deep in the shadow of an asteroid field, hidden sensors detected the emergency transmission. The signal was analyzed, decoded, and forwarded through channels that existed in complete secrecy. Within minutes, it reached a command center that officially didn't exist, staffed by beings that most of the galaxy had written off as harmless. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the Nightfall, a vessel so advanced that it rendered most galactic technology obsolete. Around her, dozens of human officers worked at stations that hummed with quiet efficiency. The ship itself was invisible to conventional sensors, hidden by technology that the rest of the galaxy couldn't even theorize about. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station, "we've intercepted a distress call. Civilian vessel under attack by Korthak raiders." Chen's expression hardened. The Korthaks were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless pirates who took no prisoners and showed no mercy. They specialized in attacking research vessels and peaceful traders, selling survivors into slavery when they bothered to take any at all. "Distance to the coordinates?" Chen asked. 47 minutes at maximum stealth approach, ma'am." The Admiral looked at the tactical display. The research vessel was doomed unless someone intervened, and intervened soon. The nearest official fleet response was hours away. "Contact the Shadowbane and the Reaper's Edge," Chen ordered. "Silent running protocols. We're going to remind these raiders why attacking civilians is a very bad idea." Around the command center, officers began preparing for what the galaxy would later remember as the day humanity revealed its true nature. The Galactic Council had dismissed Earth and its inhabitants decades ago. When humanity had first achieved faster-than-light travel and made contact with galactic civilization, they had seemed unremarkable. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards. Their ships were crude and slow. Their weapons were simple projectile-based systems that more advanced civilizations had abandoned millennia ago. What the galaxy failed to understand was that humanity had been learning, watching, and preparing. While other species focused on energy shields and plasma weapons, humans had taken a different path. They studied every conflict, analyzed every weakness, and developed countermeasures that their enemies couldn't even imagine. The 3 human vessels approached the battle zone like ghosts. Their hulls were coated with materials that absorbed sensor waves. Their engines ran so quietly that they produced no detectable signature. To any observer, they simply didn't exist. Captain Velandra's ship was dying. The Cosmic Dawn listed heavily to starboard, its hull breached in multiple places. Emergency lighting bathed the corridors in red as the crew fought desperately to keep life support functioning. "Captain," called her science officer, "the raiders are demanding our surrender. They want our research data and they want the younglings." Velandra's stomach turned. The Korthak's reputation with captured younglings was well known and uniformly horrific. "How long until our engines fail completely?" "Maybe 20 minutes, ma'am." On the bridge's main screen, 3 massive Korthak vessels closed in like predators circling wounded prey. Each ship was armed with enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Their hulls bore the scars of countless raids, decorated with the symbols of their victims. The largest ship opened a communication channel. The face that appeared on screen was a nightmare of scarred flesh and cybernetic implants. This was Warlord Krexthar, one of the most feared raiders in the outer systems. "Surrender now, and we might let some of your crew live," Krexthar snarled. "Resist, and we'll make your deaths very slow and very painful." Velandra closed her eyes. She had no weapons capable of fighting these monsters. No shield strong enough to protect her people. No help coming in time to matter. That's when the impossible happened. The first Korthak ship simply stopped. One moment it was moving toward the research vessel, the next it was drifting in space, all power dead. No explosion, no visible damage. It was as if someone had reached out and switched it off. "What?" Krexthar began. His transmission cut to static as his own ship shuddered under some invisible impact. Alarms began wailing throughout his vessel as systems failed in rapid succession. On the Cosmic Dawn's bridge, Velandra watched in amazement as the third raider ship began firing wildly at empty space, its weapons targeting shadows that weren't there. "Captain," her sensor officer said in a voice filled with wonder, "I'm detecting 3 unknown vessels. They're right on top of the raiders, but I can barely see them on our screens." What Velandra was witnessing was humanity's first public demonstration of why they were known in the deepest levels of galactic intelligence as Deathworlders. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that life shouldn't have been possible. The fact that an intelligent species had evolved there was considered a statistical anomaly. What the galaxy hadn't realized was what kind of species could survive such a world. Humans had evolved in an environment that constantly tried to kill them. They had developed reflexes, instincts, and tactical thinking that other species couldn't match. Where other civilizations had grown soft behind energy shields and automated defenses, humans had remained sharp, dangerous, and utterly ruthless when protecting their own. The human ship struck with surgical precision. Electromagnetic pulse weapons disabled the raider systems without destroying their hulls. Targeted kinetic strikes took out weapon systems with accuracy that bordered on supernatural. In less than 5 minutes, 3 of the most feared pirate vessels in the galaxy had been reduced to helpless hulks. Admiral Chen's voice came across all frequencies, calm and professional. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Any hostile action against civilian vessels in this sector will result in immediate and overwhelming response. Korthak vessels, you will prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Warlord Krexthar, trapped in his powerless ship, stared at his dead screens in disbelief. His 3 vessels, each capable of destroying entire colonies, had been defeated by ships he couldn't even see properly. "Who are you?" he transmitted on emergency frequencies. "What species has such technology?" Chen's response would echo throughout the galaxy within hours. "We are humans. We are from a world you call a death world, and we are the reason why attacking civilians is about to become the last mistake you ever make." The boarding began immediately. Human Marines, equipped with armor that made them look like mechanical demons, cut through the raiders' hulls with tools that turned steel into vapor. They moved through the ships like living nightmares, their weapons firing projectiles that penetrated any known armor. What made it truly terrifying was their coordination. Every human seemed to know exactly where their teammates were at all times. They communicated in rapid bursts of coded language that the raiders' universal translators couldn't decode fast enough to matter. Within an hour, all 3 raider ships were under human control. The pirates themselves were secured in holding cells that they quickly discovered were impossible to escape from. Captain Velandra watched the rescue operations from her repaired bridge. Human repair teams had somehow restored her ship's main systems in less time than her own engineers thought possible. Their equipment was unlike anything she had ever seen, tools that seemed to reshape matter at the molecular level. A human officer appeared on her communication screen. He was younger than she had expected, with kind eyes that seemed completely at odds with the military precision she had witnessed. "Captain Velandra, this is Commander Williams of the Nightfall. Are your people all right?" "Yes, thanks to you," she replied. "But I don't understand. We've never heard of the Terran Defense Force." "How did you respond so quickly?" Williams smiled, and for a moment, the deadly efficiency was replaced by simple human warmth. "We've been out here for a while, ma'am, watching, learning, making sure that when something like this happened, we'd be ready to help." What Williams didn't tell her was that humanity had been building their shadow fleet for over 20 years. While the galaxy saw them as primitive newcomers, human intelligence had been mapping every trade route, every pirate base, every political weakness in galactic civilization. They had learned from humanity's own history. Earth had been a violent world, and humans had become very good at violence. But they had also learned the value of peace, the importance of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that Deathworlders didn't just survive hostile environments. They thrived in them. And when their moral code was threatened, they became something that no energy shield or plasma weapon could stop. As the human fleet prepared to escort the Cosmic Dawn to safety, Admiral Chen stood in her command center reviewing tactical reports. The operation had gone perfectly, but she knew it was just the beginning. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Rodriguez, "we're receiving hundreds of communications requests. Every major news network in the galaxy wants to know who we are." Chen nodded. Humanity's secret was out now. Their shadow fleet was revealed. The galaxy would have questions, and those questions would lead to discoveries that would change everything. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "It's time to let them know that Phase 1 is complete." Light years away, in a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Marcus Kane received Chen's message with satisfaction. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. They thought they understood what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. The rescue of the Cosmic Dawn was just the opening move in a game that humanity had been preparing to play for decades. And as news of the mysterious Terran Defense Force spread throughout galactic civilization, one thing became clear. The quiet species from the Death World had been hiding something that made the galaxy's most feared raiders look like children playing with toys. The real question wasn't what humanity was capable of. The question was why they had stayed hidden for so long, and what they planned to do now that their secret was revealed. The news traveled faster than the fastest ships in the galaxy. Within 6 hours of the rescue at the coordinates where the Cosmic Dawn had faced destruction, every major news network was broadcasting the same impossible story. Humans, the primitive species from Sol 3, had appeared from nowhere with technology that made the galaxy's best military forces look like museum pieces. High Counselor Thexara of the Galactic Council paced her crystalline chambers in agitation. Her 12 legs clicked against the polished floor in a rhythm that her staff had learned meant serious trouble was brewing. "Show me the recordings again," she demanded. Her aide, a nervous Valerian named Quix, activated the holographic display. The footage, taken by the Cosmic Dawn's emergency cameras, showed the impossible battle in stunning detail. 3 Korthak dreadnoughts, each one a terror of the spaceways, had been neutralized by attackers they couldn't even target properly. "The analysis from our best scientists is unanimous," Quix reported. The human vessels used electromagnetic pulse weapons of unknown design, kinetic projectiles that ignore energy shielding, and stealth technology that surpasses anything in our databases. Thexara's compound eyes focused on the display as human marines boarded the disabled raider ships. They moved with a precision that seemed almost supernatural, each warrior knowing exactly where their teammates were without visible communication. "How did we miss this?" she asked. "Our intelligence reports on humanity showed them to be barely spacefaring. Their ships were crude. Their weapons were primitive." "Ma'am," Quix hesitated, "our intelligence may have been deliberately misled." The implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If humanity had been hiding their true capabilities, it meant they had been planning something. And if the rescue operation was any indication, humanity's plans involved a military force that could probably conquer half the galaxy. On the bridge of the Cosmic Dawn, Captain Velandra was discovering just how much humanity had been hiding. Commander Williams had invited her aboard the Nightfall for what he called a diplomatic meeting. But what she found challenged everything she thought she knew about the universe. The human vessel was a marvel of engineering that shouldn't have been possible. Corridors that seemed too small for the crew somehow accommodated everyone perfectly. Walls that appeared to be simple metal turned out to be interactive displays that could show any information at a thought. Most disturbing of all, the humans themselves moved through their ship with an efficiency that made her nervous. "Your ship," she said to Commander Williams as they walked toward what he called the observation deck. "It's not just advanced. It's like it was built by an entirely different understanding of physics." Williams smiled, that warm human smile that seemed so at odds with the devastating military capability she had witnessed. "We learned a lot in the last 20 years, he said. "Humans are good at learning from their mistakes." The observation deck took her breath away. The walls were transparent aluminum, giving a perfect view of the human fleet as it escorted her ship toward the nearest friendly station. What she saw made her stomach drop. There weren't 3 human ships. There were dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, all running in perfect stealth formation. They appeared on her enhanced vision, like shadows given form, a fleet that could have conquered entire sectors without anyone even knowing they were there. "How long have you been out here?" she asked. Williams looked out at his fleet with something that might have been pride or might have been sadness. "Since the Hegemony War," he said quietly. Velandra's blood went cold. The Hegemony War had ended 12 years ago, when the Zenthari Empire had attempted to conquer the Outer Rim territories. It had been stopped by what historians called fortunate circumstances, supply line failures, tactical mistakes, and a series of mysterious accidents that had crippled the Zenthari war machine. "You were there," she realized. "The Zenthari didn't make mistakes. You stopped them." Williams nodded. "We couldn't let them succeed. Too many innocent people would have suffered." As the truth sank in, Velandra understood why her rescue had been so efficient. The humans weren't newcomers to galactic politics. They had been active participants for over a decade, working in the shadows to prevent conflicts and protect civilians. The galaxy owed its current peace to a species it had dismissed as harmless. Light years away, in the deepest levels of Zenthari High Command, Admiral Kethvar was having a very different reaction to the news of humanity's reveal. "Send this message to the Emperor immediately," he ordered his communications officer. "The ghost ships that defeated us 12 years ago weren't phantoms or accidents. They were human vessels. The Zenthari were a proud warrior species with a long memory for defeat. When their great expansion had been stopped by mysterious forces, they had spent years analyzing every battle, every failure, every impossible coincidence that had led to their retreat. Now they knew who their enemy was. Emperor Zalthek received the message in his throne room on the Zenthari homeworld. The massive reptilian leader had ruled through strength and cunning for over 2 centuries, but even he felt a chill as he realized the implications. "How many ships do the humans have?" he asked his intelligence chief. "Unknown, my emperor. Our estimates suggest they have been building their fleet for at least 20 years. If their production capabilities match their technology..." The intelligence chief didn't need to finish. A species capable of hiding such a massive military buildup while appearing primitive to galactic observation was a threat unlike any the Zenthari had ever faced. "What do we know about their homeworld?" "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, my emperor. The most hostile planetary environment known to support intelligent life. The species that evolved there would be..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Uniquely adapted to warfare." Emperor Zalthek had not become ruler of the Zenthari by backing down from challenges. But he was also not stupid enough to attack an enemy he didn't understand. "Begin surveillance of all human activities," he ordered. "I want to know everything about this species, their numbers, their technology, their weaknesses, and start recalling our fleets from the outer sectors. We may need them closer to home." Back on the human command ship. Nightfall. Admiral Chen was receiving reports that confirmed her worst fears. The galaxy's response to humanity's revelation was splitting along predictable lines. Some species, like the peaceful Vraxians and the research-focused Alorians, were expressing curiosity and gratitude for the rescue operation. They wanted to open diplomatic relations and learn more about human technology. Others, particularly the militaristic species that had been expanding their territories through force, were viewing humanity as a potential threat that needed to be evaluated and possibly eliminated. "Ma'am," reported her intelligence officer, Commander Park, "we're detecting increased military activity throughout the Zenthari Empire. Fleet movements suggest they're consolidating their forces." Chen had expected this. Humanities analysts had spent years studying galactic politics, and they knew which species would react with suspicion to the revelation of human capabilities. "Any word from Earth Command?" "Phase 2 has been approved, ma'am. We're authorized to begin diplomatic contact with friendly species. But we're also cleared to take defensive measures against potential threats." Chen nodded. Phase 2 of humanity's plan had always been the most dangerous. Revealing their existence was one thing. Managing the consequences was something else entirely. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All vessels maintain stealth protocols. I want us ready for anything." What Admiral Chen didn't know was that humanity's reveal had triggered responses she hadn't anticipated. On the trading station of Nexus Prime, Merchant Captain Fellow K was having the conversation that would change everything. The grizzled Valerian trader had been doing business in the outer systems for 30 years, and he had noticed things that others missed. "I'm telling you," he said to the gathered crowd of his fellow merchants, "the humans have been out there longer than they're admitting. Remember those supply convoys that disappeared near the Korthak territories 3 years ago? The ones where the raiders were found floating in space with their ships disabled?" A Dralian freighter captain nodded slowly. "And what about the Slaver Guild operations that kept failing in the Outer Rim? Ships would just vanish without a trace." "The asteroid miners keep talking about mysterious signals that would warn them about pirate attacks," added a third merchant. "Signals that came from empty space." As the pieces of the puzzle came together, the merchant community began to realize something that the major powers were still missing. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their fleet. They had been actively protecting trade routes, stopping slave raids, and eliminating pirate operations throughout the galaxy. The humans weren't conquerors or invaders. They were guardians. This realization spread through the independent trader networks faster than any official communication. Within hours, merchant vessels throughout the galaxy were sharing stories of mysterious protectors, unexplained rescues, and pirate fleets that had vanished without explanation. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's reveal wasn't the emergence of a new threat. It was the unveiling of protectors who had been working in secret for over a decade. But not everyone saw it that way. In the war rooms of a dozen military powers, strategic planners were reaching different conclusions. A species capable of hiding such extensive operations was a species capable of deception on a massive scale. If humans could secretly build a fleet that could defeat the Korthak raiders without breaking stealth, what else were they hiding? The Hegemony Council, a loose alliance of militaristic species, called an emergency session. Their leaders gathered in the neutral station of Concordia, their discussions carrying implications that would determine the fate of the galaxy. "We know nothing about their true capabilities," declared General Vextar of the Corvani Empire. "They could have 10 ships or 10,000. They could be planning conquest or simply defending their territory. We cannot afford to assume benevolent intentions." "But they saved a civilian vessel," pointed out Councillor Therak of the Marian Federation. "Their actions suggest protective rather than aggressive motives." "Actions can be deceptive," General Vextar replied. "A species capable of such deception for such an extended period is not to be trusted. We must assume the worst and prepare accordingly." The vote was close, but the decision was made. The Hegemony Council would begin military preparations for a potential conflict with humanity. They would mobilize their fleets, consolidate their defenses, and prepare for what might become the largest war in galactic history. Unknown to them, every word of their discussion was being monitored by devices so small and sophisticated that no known technology could detect them. Admiral Chen read the intelligence reports with growing concern. Humanity's reveal had created exactly the situation they had hoped to avoid, a potential galaxy-wide conflict that would endanger millions of innocent lives. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Recommend immediate activation of Phase 3 protocols. The situation is escalating beyond our control parameters." As the message traveled toward Earth through quantum communication channels that existed in dimensions the rest of the galaxy hadn't discovered yet, one thing became clear. Humanity's time in the shadows was over. Now they would have to reveal not just their presence, but the true scope of their capabilities. And when the galaxy learned what a species from a death world could really do when threatened, the balance of power would shift in ways that no one could predict. The rescue of the Cosmic Dawn had been a demonstration of human technology and tactical capability. What was coming next would be a revelation of human strategic thinking and the true depth of their preparation for this moment. The galaxy was about to learn why evolution on a death world created more than just survivors. It created protectors willing to do whatever it took to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. And it created warriors that no known force in the galaxy could defeat. Admiral Marcus Kane stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's deep command center, buried 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. The chamber had been built to withstand planetary bombardment, but more importantly, it had been designed to coordinate a military force that spanned half the galaxy. "Status report," he ordered. Colonel Hayes, his chief of operations, brought up tactical displays that showed the true scope of humanity's preparation. "Phase 3 assets are in position throughout 18 star systems, sir. The Hegemony Council's military buildup is proceeding exactly as our projections predicted." Kane studied the display with the cold satisfaction of a chess master, watching his opponent walk into a trap that had been 20 years in the making. Red markers showed hegemony fleets massing at strategic points throughout the galaxy. Blue markers showed the positions of human forces, forces that the enemy couldn't detect and couldn't count. "They think they're dealing with a single human fleet," Kane observed. "They have no idea what they're actually facing." What the Hegemony Council didn't know was that humanity's reveal had been carefully planned for this exact moment. Every possible response had been calculated, every political reaction predicted, every military countermove anticipated. The species that had evolved on a world where survival required thinking 10 steps ahead had applied that same strategic mindset to galactic politics. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving the activation codes from Admiral Chen. The hegemony fleets will reach their jump points in 12 hours. Kane nodded. The enemy was moving according to the timeline that Earth Command had written for them. "Signal all task forces," he ordered. "Execute protocol revelation. It's time to show them what Deathworlders really learned on Earth." Across the galaxy, in the shadows between stars, humanity's true fleet began to move. General Vexitar of the Corvani Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, surrounded by the largest military force the Hegemony Council had assembled in 50 years. 300 vessels representing 7 different species, each ship bristling with enough firepower to glass a planet. "Intelligence reports suggest the humans have perhaps 50 vessels," his tactical officer reported. "Our force represents overwhelming superiority in both numbers and firepower." Vextar was an experienced military commander who had conquered 17 star systems for the Corvani Empire. He knew the value of caution, but he also understood that some threats had to be eliminated before they could grow beyond control. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "We'll hit their positions in the Sol system before they can prepare a defense. Once we demonstrate the consequences of hiding military assets from the Galactic Council, other species will think twice about similar deceptions." What Vextar didn't know was that humanity had never intended to defend the Sol system. Earth's location was well known, its defenses predictable. Any military planner would expect humans to fall back to their homeworld when threatened. Humans, however, had learned different lessons from their violent history. As the Hegemony fleet entered hyperspace for the journey to Sol, sensors throughout the galaxy detected something impossible. The space around the Hegemony fleet's starting positions, which should have been empty, began to shimmer and distort. One by one, hundreds of vessels became visible as their stealth fields deactivated. Ships that had been hidden in plain sight for years, watching, waiting, and preparing for exactly this moment. The merchant station of Nexus Prime found itself surrounded by a fleet of human vessels that simply hadn't existed moments before. The ships were unlike anything in galactic databases, sleek, predatory forms that seemed to absorb light itself. Captain Fellow-K, who had been one of the first to realize that humans had been protecting galactic commerce, watched in amazement as Admiral Chen's voice came across all communication channels. "Attention, citizens of the galaxy," she said, her voice calm and professional. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. A hostile fleet has been launched against human space with the stated intention of destroying our civilization. We want you to know that we will not allow this aggression to succeed." The displays throughout Nexus Prime lit up with tactical information that made hardened space veterans gasp in shock. The human fleet wasn't just larger than anyone had imagined, it was everywhere. Every major trade route, every strategic system, every important political center in the galaxy had human vessels positioned within striking distance. "We have been your silent guardians for 12 years, Admiral Chen continued. "We have protected your ships from pirates, prevented wars, and stopped slavers from raiding your colonies. We did this not for glory or political advantage, but because we believe that protecting innocent life is the duty of any civilized species." On his flagship, General Vexitar was receiving reports that made his military mind reel with disbelief. His intelligence officers had detected over 3,000 human vessels, positioned throughout the galaxy with tactical precision that suggested a level of strategic planning beyond anything in recorded galactic history. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout our own territory. Human ships have appeared in the Corvani home system." Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of warfare. True fear. The humans hadn't just hidden a fleet. They had positioned forces throughout every major military power in the galaxy. If they chose to attack, they could cripple galactic civilization before anyone could mount an effective defense. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "I need to speak with their admiral." Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen of the Dominator. She looked exactly like what she was, a military officer who had spent years preparing for this moment. "General Vextar," she said, "you've launched an unprovoked attack against human space. I'm offering you one opportunity to withdraw your forces and return to your territory." "Admiral," Vextar said, choosing his words carefully, "your species has hidden massive military capabilities from galactic oversight. The Council has a right to investigate potential threats to galactic security." Chen smiled, and the expression was not reassuring. "General, let me explain something about Deathworlder psychology," she said. "On Earth, we learned very early that the best defense is often a devastating offense. You've just threatened our homes and our families. In human culture, that means you've crossed a line that we don't allow anyone to cross." The tactical display behind Chen lit up with targeting solutions that made Vextar's blood run cold. Every ship in his fleet was marked with weapons locks from human vessels he couldn't even detect. The technology gap wasn't just significant, it was absolute. "You have 30 minutes to begin withdrawal," Chen continued. "If you don't, we will demonstrate why attacking a Deathworlder species is considered the worst tactical mistake in the galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving Vextar staring at a display that showed his entire fleet surrounded by enemies that could destroy them at will. On Earth, Admiral Kane was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. Phase 3 wasn't just about defending against the hegemony attack. It was about establishing humanity's position in galactic civilization permanently. "Sir," reported Colonel Hayes, "surveillance data shows the Zenthari Emperor is mobilizing their entire navy. They're interpreting our fleet reveal as preparation for conquest." Kane studied the intelligence reports. Emperor Zalthek was making the same mistake that every aggressive species made when confronted with superior force. He was assuming that humans thought like his own people. "Open a secure channel to the Zenthari throne world," Kane ordered. "It's time for some direct diplomacy." When Emperor Zalthek's image appeared on the communication screen, Kane could see the calculation in the reptilian leader's eyes. This was a being who had spent 2 centuries conquering his way to power, and he was evaluating humanity as a potential threat to his empire. "Emperor," Kane said without preamble, 12 years ago, you attempted to conquer the Outer Rim territories. Your expansion was stopped by forces you couldn't identify. I'm here to tell you that those forces were human vessels protecting innocent colonies from your aggression." Zalthek's expression didn't change, but Kane could see understanding dawning in the alien leader's eyes. "We could have destroyed your fleets then," Kane continued. "We chose not to because conquest has never been our goal. We've been protecting galactic civilization, not threatening it. But if you choose to view us as enemies and act accordingly, we will respond with the full force of our military capabilities." The display behind Kane lit up with tactical information that showed human vessels positioned throughout Zenthari space. The message was clear. Humanity could have conquered the Zenthari Empire at any time in the last 12 years. The fact that they hadn't was a statement of intent. "What do you want?" Zalthek asked. "Peace," Kane replied. "The same thing we've wanted for the last 20 years. We want to trade freely, explore the galaxy, and protect innocent life from those who would harm it. We're not interested in empire or conquest, but we will not allow aggression against human space or our allies." As the conversation continued, similar diplomatic contacts were being made throughout the galaxy. Human ambassadors hidden for years in major galactic capitals were revealing themselves and presenting the same message. Humanity sought peace, but was prepared for war if necessary. The response was unlike anything in galactic history. Within 6 hours of humanity's fleet reveal, Three major military powers had withdrawn their forces and requested diplomatic negotiations. The Vraxian Defense Fleet, the Alorian Research Collective, and the Marian Federation had all sent messages expressing their desire for peaceful relations with Earth. More importantly, independent traders, research vessels, and colony ships throughout the galaxy were broadcasting messages of support for the species that had been secretly protecting them for over a decade. Captain Velandra, still aboard the human vessel Nightfall, watched the galactic response with wonder. "You planned for this," she said to Commander Williams. "All of it. The rescue, the fleet reveal, even the political responses. How long have you been preparing?" Williams looked out at the stars with something that might have been sadness. "Since the first day we left Earth and saw what the galaxy was really like," he said. "We saw species being enslaved, colonies being raided, peaceful traders being murdered by pirates, while the major powers argued about jurisdiction and sphere of influence." He turned to face her directly. "We realized that the galaxy needed guardians, species that would act without waiting for committee approval or political authorization, so we became those guardians." What Williams didn't tell her was the full scope of humanity's intervention in galactic affairs. Over the last 12 years, human forces had prevented 17 wars, stopped 43 slaving operations, eliminated over 200 pirate fleets, and rescued thousands of civilians from raiders and hostile forces. They had done all of this without taking credit, claiming territory, or demanding political recognition. They had simply acted because they believed it was right. General Vextar made his decision with 15 minutes left on Admiral Chen's deadline. The tactical situation was hopeless, and continuing would only result in the destruction of his entire fleet. "All ships," he transmitted, "begin withdrawal to home systems immediately. This is a full retreat." As the hegemony fleet jumped to hyperspace, fleeing from human space, Admiral Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The plan had worked perfectly. Humanity had revealed its strength without having to use it, demonstrated its reach without conquering territory, and established its position as a galactic power without firing a shot in anger. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, "we're receiving diplomatic requests from 47 different species and political entities. Everyone wants to open negotiations with Earth." Chen nodded. The real work was just beginning. Humanity would have to build diplomatic relationships, establish trade agreements, and create the political framework for the peaceful galaxy they had been fighting to protect. But for the first time in 20 years, they could do it openly. 3 weeks later, Captain Velandra stood in the assembly hall of the new Galactic Cooperation Council, watching as Earth's first official ambassador took his place among the representatives of 43 different species. The Galactic Council, with its military oversight and territorial disputes, had been dissolved by popular demand. In its place, a new organization focused on trade, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense against common threats. The changes had been more peaceful than anyone expected. When faced with humanity's overwhelming military superiority, most species had chosen negotiation over conflict. Those few who had insisted on aggressive postures had found their neighbors unwilling to support military adventures that could bring down the wrath of the Deathworlders. "The galaxy is safer now," she told the human ambassador after the session. "Because of what your people did." Ambassador Sarah Kim smiled with the same warmth that seemed to characterize all the humans Velandra had met. "We just did what we thought was right," she said. "Protecting innocent people is never wrong, no matter what form it takes." As Velandra looked around the assembly hall, filled with representatives working together instead of plotting against each other, she understood what humanity had really accomplished. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had saved it. The species from the Death World had learned something that no other civilization had mastered. True strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that ability. The alien SOS that had revealed humanity's presence had done more than rescue a single ship. It had unveiled guardians who had been protecting galactic civilization in secret for over a decade, and now, with their work finally acknowledged, humanity could continue that protection in the light instead of the shadows. The galaxy was finally safe, watched over by the most dangerous and most peaceful species it had ever known.